Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to South Church, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Unitarian Universalist congregation. We're so glad that you are joining us this morning, be it virtually and or on Sunday or another time during the week. We're happy to have you here with us. I'm glad to be joined this morning by Worship Associate convener and a member of the Worship Associate group, Donovan Cummings. What do you have for us this morning?
Hi, Susan. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for joining South Church today as we continue this summer's exploration of the theme of change. As Susan noted, my name is Jonathan Cummings, and I'm one of a team of worship associates here that assist with creating and providing our services for South Church. And as always, there's a number of contributors to thank that help bring these sermons to you in our time for all ages. Today's music is provided by Susan Adams and Lauren Donovan, and as usual, Jen Leiden is fulfilling our essential service of video editing. So thanks to everyone for helping us make this happen.
Glad you're here. Let the worship begin.
Mark your calendars for a day of cleaning to get South Church ready for us to come back to our space. On Saturday, August 21st, from 10 to noon, we will gather at the church to spend time cleaning, organizing, and prepping the space for our return. Please consider coming to help spruce everything up. The latest statistics say that the divorce rate of those 55 and over is over a whopping 45%. If you are in it, thinking about it, have been through it by your choice or otherwise, let's connect. Those age 50 and over are invited to gather a few times in a safe, supportive, forward-looking group on Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. beginning in August. If you're interested, please email Susan Adams at spa378@gmail.com. And please join us for a special congregational meeting on Sunday, August 22nd at 11:15 a.m. on Zoom. This important meeting is to discuss two key items: increasing our UUA dues for the remainder of 2021 and using approved funds from our credit line to fund important capital projects. More information can be found in your Sunday morning email.
Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul.
I think we take it for granted that science can change. As we gather more evidence through observation of the world around us, we update our understanding of how the world works. We modify or create new theories as observations confirm or invalidate our hypotheses. This, by its very definition, is how science works, and something that science is good at. We've been facing a lot of changes in the world recently. I'm sure you too can name many: coronavirus and mutating variants and accompanying recommendations, reconnecting with some people in our lives, feeling more distant from others, swinging rapidly between drought and heavy rains, heat waves and fires that intensify each year as we find ourselves face to face with the reality that the climate is not just going to change, but already has in fact changed. Not only does it feel to me like we are facing many changes, but the pace of those changes feel like they are accelerating. This is troubling because while the use of science to evaluate the world and what will happen in it is still our best means of knowing, it isn't as good in this scenario. It makes being able to use what we once knew about the way the world works less likely to be accurate in predicting the way the world will be. Sorry, but I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent about fish in a pond. For many years, we've watched how many fish we can catch from the pond, how much fishing has occurred each year, how big the fish are, and what the fish eat. From watching this, we think we know about how many fish there are in the pond, based on how much fishing we just did, and how many and how big the fish we just caught were. We think we know this because the relationship between all these things we watch seems to be the same. One goes up some amount, so we know how much the other went up. Therefore, when we spend half as much time fishing this year as last year, and catch half the number of fish, we presume there are the same number of fish this year as last year in the pond. But sometimes the relationships we rely on, these things we track through time, change. The pond is warmer, and the fish are more active and thus twice as likely to go for a lure. In this case, when we catch twice as many fish as in a normal year, there are actually only half as many fish in the pond as we think. Most predictive science, especially predictions about ecology, the natural world in which all life operates, relies on stable relationships. But ecosystem change, climate change, and fast change makes this harder. Can we still rely on the historical relationship between what is in the pond and what we catch? As we race into a new world with new viruses, new climate, new culture, I wonder if you also think about it like a predictive scientist, wondering how much additional caution we need to take into account for potential error in our mental models and our scientific models of the world, wondering when we can trust what we once knew, and wondering when we need to adapt our thinking and our predictions to a new set of relationships. I'll share these two quotes as we light our chalices today. First, from John Paul Getty. In times of rapid change, experience could be your worst enemy. Second, from Dan Millman, In the Way of the Peaceful Warrior. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Please join me in our mission statement. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community.
Good morning. I'm sitting on the steps of church right now. I wonder if this looks familiar to you. So we're still talking about change this summer, and there's been so much that has changed just in the last year and a half since the time when we used to gather in this building. So today I thought I'd talk about some of the things that haven't changed. And I'm here at church, and I'd like to show you some of the ways that this building is exactly how it always has been. Here's the outside. It has a new roof, but it still looks pretty much the same. Not much has changed out here. We even have beautiful flowers, and the gardens have been taken care of thanks to some dedicated gardeners. Here's the sanctuary. Still looks the same. It's here waiting for us. Here's the place where some of us like to sit to hear the time for all ages. Right down here is a secret spot where some of you like to hide. Here's the social hall where so many nice gatherings have happened, whether it's after church or on special events. I can almost imagine the sounds of people's voices, the laughing. I can see kids climbing these poles. Have you ever climbed one of these poles? Here's the nursery. Still has all the toys. Here's the spirit play classroom. Here's the meditation room. This room changed not long before the pandemic started. But here it is, a beautiful place to have a calm body, a calm mind. Here's the milk classroom, where we do lots of exploring and learning and being together. Do you remember this place? A lot about this building still looks the same and feels the same as it did the last time that we were gathered here. But I want to show you something that's on the wall right here behind me. I wonder if that poster looks familiar to you. Let's get a closer look. Here's a poster of our Unitarian Universalist principles. You can see that it's changed a little bit on its own. The paper has changed a little bit. It doesn't look quite new anymore, but it's still really beautiful. Paper does that, it changes. There's something else about this. This poster shows the 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. It's the things that we all agree on together. But even that changes. Change is important in our religion because we believe that when we learn how to live our lives in more meaningful ways, then we really try to do that. And right now, we're working on adopting an 8th principle. This new 8th principle says we must work together for diversity and against racism and oppression. Maybe when you come back, you can help me make a new poster. So while it's great to have some things that have not changed, it's also really important to make some changes. I hope that this building that's still standing and this community that's still connected feels really supportive for you to come and do the work of the important change that we have to make. Another thing that hasn't changed is that I love you and I can't wait to see you.
A large group gathers in Dover as Black Lives Matter Seacoast rallies for change.
Today's shared plate offering, as indicated on your screen, can be given using the South Church website. Our offering will be shared with Black Lives Matter Seacoast to nurture Black youth leadership, support Black community through mutual aid projects, promote Black-owned business, and demand investment into education, social services, and the health of Black people, and away from exploitative forces such as law enforcement, jail, and prisons that have harmed and criminalized the Black community. Please give as you are able.
Oh, we give thanks, oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for this precious day. We're all gathered here, we're all gathered here, and those far away, and those far away. For this time we share, for this time we share, with love and care, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks, oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for this precious day.
Let us be in an attitude of prayer. Holy One of blessing, we gather for a few moments of silent reflection as we think upon the needs of this community and of this world. We are grateful for this community that was able to gather at Star Island with loved ones and family members and be together for time of conversation and time of joy, time of relaxation. And I pray that you have time during this next weeks to enjoy vacation with your loved ones, no matter where it be. I pray for all those who suffer, who have hurts, who have losses. May you know that you're not alone. May you reach out to us. Know that we hear you, we care for you. We offer all that we can to get you through this time. And I offer most of all a prayer for this world, a world that can be confusing and lonely and scary, but also a world that can be lovely and full of life. So prayer, that mixed way of looking at life, at looking at loss, at looking at challenges, the prayer that I offer today is that you know you are held in love and in care. And please take a moment if you have any prayer needs to list them as we enter a time of meditation. May you be blessed and may you be a blessing. Amen. Good morning. Having had this month or so to reflect on change has led me down some interesting paths of reflection and contemplation, and probably led to some questions that will stay with me forever. I have discovered that I've been exploring the concept of change for many years. Many years. While moving, I found a short bibliography on the topic of change and transformation from my undergraduate work at the community college. I found an early sermon from an internship time on change. And I also came along a week-long seminar that I presented at Ferry Beach Camp and Conference Center in August of 1998. And though much of that seminar was focusing on transformation of the institutions, specifically the UUA, into becoming an authentically anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural institution, I was reminded of how repeatedly I've been fascinated with the process of change, transformation, and collective liberation that is possible when change occurs. I have this ongoing and funny tension of being an institutionalist prone to honoring traditions and rabble-rouser, troublemaker, visionary, all wrapped up into this person named Susan, who's a mother, a grandmother, a partner, a minister, a social creature, a chaplain, a strategist, a prophet, and a pastor. And holding all this together can become quite intense sometimes, not just for me and my psyche, but for those close to me when I unload on them when I am struggling with change. What it is, what it isn't. Anyway, I want to share some learnings with you as we continue to unpack that concept of change. Change, as I think we've all come to agree, is a process. Max Dupree, an author, wrote, "In the end, it is important to remember that we cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are."
I like that quote. We cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. And this quote too by George Trussell, who's an organizational development person. People, he said, do not basically resist change. They resist being changed. Resist being changed, oh yes. But being changed is a positive, a spiritual goal, a step. And today I want to look a bit as change as that goal. And to achieve a goal, there has to be a strategy and a vision of what it might look like. A strategy, that's the steps, the pathways, the plans to lead one toward a vision. But a strategy for change is only as good as the spirit it stirs, the heart it warms, the passion it awakens, the justice it serves, and the pulse it quickens. A vision, that's a spirit-filled, heart-filled, pulse-racing, audacious goal. As we, South Church, begin to wrestle with change into an institution that shares leadership in new ways, honors and envisions a more just, equitable, anti-oppressive way of functioning and being part of a world that we can only imagine. My question is, how can we do this when it is a figment of our imaginations? How do we set a goal when it's something that we can only imagine? How do we change something if we don't know what it's going to look like, function like, be like? And how do we change what is for something that has not yet existed? Well, I have to suggest it's through a lot of talking and sharing, learning from one another, experimentation, and most of all, being fluid and being responsive. Religious institutions are perhaps amongst the hardest of all institutions to change. Houston Smith, the author of the book The World's Religions, which as an aside used to be titled The Religions of Man, see, things can change, wrote, and I paraphrase, "Religion is always conservative and occasionally can be prophetic and transformative." I deeply appreciate this sentiment. Institutions by their very nature exist to contain, to serve, to direct, to preserve, to sustain. They are the bastion against chaos, against the dizziness, the whirlwind, the tsunami of feelings and uncertainty that accompanies change. You know, Donovan asked the most intriguing question during his opening words when he asked about historical relationships as predetermining, guiding forces for change. And that kind of leads me to say, you know, whatever institutions need to remain, to offer some foundation, some assurance, and what of institutions need to be done away with to bring about authentic change? What can we trust for the future, coupled with what we once knew? Thanks, Jonathan. That's great fodder for my mind. And there is part of me that knows through personal experience that transformation and change is a soul-shaking opportunity. It is allowing room for newness, a place of possibility, of creativity, of a new trajectory, which is a prophetic and transformative potential. Can institutions do that? I really don't know. I have this wonderment. What happens first? Does the system and the institution change and then the individuals be changed within by the way that the institution has changed? Or is it the other way around? The individuals change and then they bring in that change, the strategies, their goals, their vision into the institution, and then that institution is changed as individuals bring in and are drawn in by a new energy. Probably it's a little bit of both. That is the way most often, isn't it? A little of both. We change, institutions change us, and we change institutions. We do know that statistically speaking, though, an institution needs a tipping point before any change can be materialized. So in spite of a few individuals or an individual desiring a change and working toward a change, these individuals must find allies, supporters, persons with the willingness to advance new thinking before trying to lead a place through sheer power plays. Even though those change agents hold the most noble, brilliant of ideas, nothing makes an institution change without a cohort of people working together. Community of communities is vital. And there is a fine line within institutions that require a dance of forward, backwards, sideways, settle, restabilize before moving again. I sometimes picture change like a big lifeboat with people climbing in and out and shifting to make room for others, moving aside to let new people paddle ahead, being shoulders, laps for people to stabilize on and stand on, and sometimes just giving assistance to someone to get out and move off the life raft for a time to rest. I do think, though, that one of the necessary steps toward institutional change is setting a space. I'm not going to use the word safe space. That's far too cliche and most often unrealized and limiting. But activists have begun calling it a brave space. I like that. Brave space where ideas, visions, perspectives can be expressed. A space where we can request time to learn how to be creative or practice curiosity, or where we can request time to refocus, get new information, gain new experiences, ask for others' perspectives, or learn how to rest when pushing is no longer effective, and learn how to gently prod and push when necessary. And also we need to learn to change, and transformation is not always efficiency. It's not always purpose-driven, but change is a full-on heart-spirit engagement with life. It's a spiritual practice, a spiritual goal, as I said at the beginning. And change that does not provide space to honor the spiritual gifts, struggles, and learning will not be sustainable. But that change is not always efficient. And for purpose-driven persons, it can be a little unnerving. And for those of us who lean toward traditional and institutional history and sometimes the desire for clarity and resolution, it can be unnerving. If your MO is to act from a place of effectiveness and is a conclusion-based and process-driven focus, the goal of working toward change of the type I think we really truly need to be bringing about and assure collective liberation, that's challenging, and that's why we need one another. And to make matters even more complicated, sometimes institutional changes may be so uncomfortable as to drive others away. I am reminded of this, I was reminded of this when I thought about the 4 different owners of the alcohol drug hospital that I worked at. I began under the first owner who truly functioned from her heart, her own experiences with addiction, compassion for the addict and all those who suffered along with them. She was a wonderful role model, and I'm ever so grateful that I learned all that I did from her. But when she sold to another owner, it was time, and it was needed. And the second owner had a more business-focused model. This preserved and saved the institution and met all the new standards that the state was putting in about recovery and insurance reimbursement. They were kind and gentle, but lacked a core understanding of the process and the people and lost the spirit to continue. And the third owner appeared to grasp what was needed to establish an environment that nurtured, treated, and allowed for mind, body, spirit transformation that is crucial to recover from addictions. They were so overwhelmed with how slow and challenging recovery was that they got soul sick and they sold. They had loved an addict and thought if they owned the place, they could save the addicts. And the fourth owner thought they had it all. They thought because they were without drink for a period of time that they knew what they need. They thought they had the social capital to play the politics needed to maintain the small hospital. They thought that they could use their privilege to get what they wanted from the community, the staff, the patients. And in the meantime, the heart and soul went out of the place till one by one and two by two we quit or were fired. And it was then that I made the decision to enter seminary to prepare for ministry. I could have found another job in the field of addictions. I was known, had a good reputation. I was good at what I did. But instead, I took the opportunity to change careers. It was a now or never moment. I don't regret it at all. Waiting and gaining all the life experiences I have has suited me well. But that is not to say it was not without major life change. A change that came about because of the institution that I was attached to, that was sapping my life away. And when I was finally free, I could step back and get healthy enough to go in another way. Now, did I have a vision of myself as minister? I had a slight blurry perspective from childhood, but I had no adult plan. But I was willing to live with the ambiguity enough to begin the process. And Ron, who, though totally unprepared for that new journey, has accompanied me, and he has his own story of change and transformation. Beginning the process is part of what I am thinking about with change, and there are some traits that are needed. Fluidity, curiosity, resiliency were ones that I depended on. And then as I entered the process of change, I relied on flexibility and relationships and community of communities to support and sustain me. And now that I am in ministry, and especially here with you as we explore novel changes, I rely on relationships, consensus, sharing experiences, shared wisdom, and accountability to help me navigate toward a goal as we travel toward a goal of building and bringing South Church into its fullest potential as a Unitarian Universalist congregation that lives its values, its principles, the spirit and love. Collective liberation, the goal of being in full harmony with the universe. I hope you join me as we explore this goal, and may it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I am prepared to enter this day knowing I have more questions than answers, knowing I have a community of support, knowing I have the loveliness of nature when I need to sit and be still, knowing I have a vision of Unitarian Universalism and South Church that loves and loves and loves more. So go now into your day prepared to meet love, give love, and spread love. So may it be. Amen.